Everyone, thank you for tuning in today. I'm going to be sharing with you something that that I've experienced a majority of my life, and I'm sure that a lot of you have as well. And I actually get a lot of questions from people asking me, how do you remain confident in your path as while at the same time being labeled as weird? And I found that to be very interesting because in 2010 I wrote a post on the etymology of the word weird, and etymology is pretty much just the history of words and how they've developed and evolved throughout history, society, cultures, and so forth. So that's kind of my side hobby. I've written about several words on my blog and have always had that as a side hobby that I always like to look into the vibrations of words, their meanings, and how they have changed and evolved over time. So going into how they apply to us in modern times, and how they also apply to history back in those times when that word first evolved and first originated and then evolved over time. So before we even get into how do you build confidence while being considered weird, we want to get into what the word weird means. I don't think a lot of people take into consideration what a word means when they use it. Even just stupid sayings that come about have a lot of meaning if you look into its historical background. But the word weird, interestingly enough, is defined as an adjective and is connected with fate or destiny, able to influence fate. So just with that definition in itself, you can understand where that comes from and why sometimes you may come across certain objections from people when they call you weird, or how you may feel sometimes when you are being called weird. It makes you kind of look back into what it is that you're doing. You know, am I doing the right thing? Is this what am I supposed to do? So definitely something worth considering when you find yourself being ostracized or labeled as weird. So basically going into a little bit more into what the word weird means, and this is on google.com I found this, and basically it comes from the Old English word wyrd, word, that which happens, fate, chance, fortune, destiny, fate, the fates, providence, event, phenomenon, transaction, fact, indeed. Now if you are someone who knows about English or just knows a little bit about the history of the English language, you'll understand that we come from very old roots of words that again have evolved into the current English language, and it's actually a variety of many different dialects that makes up our language, which is the English language. But basically this weird was extinct by the 16th century in English. It survived in the Scottish language, when Shakespeare borrowed it in naming it as the Weird Sisters in one of his plays. And now I'm clicking on the Weird Sisters, and you will see here the three witches, or the triple goddesses, which were basically characters in William Shakespeare's play Macbeth. And I've never read or seen that play, so I really don't know too much about it. But apparently the women in these in this play were witches, or rather prophets of Macbeth, who hailed Macbeth, and pretty much they just provided you know, I guess the fortune and the fate of the person and so forth. So if you know a little bit more about this play and what it means, you know, feel free to leave a little bit more information down below. But basically my understanding of what the Weird Sisters and what it means had a lot of validation, because I knew I had to have more than just you're weird. It's something that I don't know. And that is actually very prominent of people who fear the unknown, to just automatically place you into a label or a category in which they feel more comfortable with defining. Because if they can't define it or find a place for it in their minds, it creates discomfort in their own selves. So that insecurity sometimes is projected onto you by being called weird and being made fun of. So I say all that to say, and just a brief history of the word weird is to let you know that things are all connected. Everything is connected. If you allow yourself to be labeled and you take answers for people for what they are, then you're always going to be at the mercy of what people think of you. You have to take things sometimes and research and find out what is the additional meaning to it. What does it mean to me? So for me, growing up, and the question that I get asked quite often is, you know, how do you remain confident by being considered weird? And I think that's something that's very important to ask and want to inquire about, because now in the age of bullying and people, you know, losing a lot of confidence in themselves, low self-esteem, anxiety, and depression, I feel personally that that is rooted in the inability of connecting with oneself. I feel that a lot of those times when we experience those things, we've expelled a lot of our own personal powers onto other people, and then we are left at their mercy and suffering as a consequence. So for me, maintaining confidence has always been a struggle, because it's something that is not easy. You're constantly questioning yourself. You're constantly trying to fit in, and you see that it just doesn't work out. At least for me, I noticed that every time I try to fit into a group or try to, you know, not really be my true genuine self, I would suffer as a consequence. Nothing would turn out as it should turn out. I would just have trouble being consistent with that vision, and ultimately not be fulfilled with myself as far as the actions I've taken towards that endeavor of trying to, you know, have a piece of my individuality, but at the same time trying to fit it into a mold that really isn't made for me. You know, a lot of people are more of paving their own way, and you know, if they follow through with that, you'll see that they'll be completely successful. But in the process of that journey, you will come across a lot of times where you just don't feel confidence. You just don't have that inner power to remain strong in your beliefs and to continue forward. So whenever I feel that I'm out of place or that I'm being called weird, I step back to the real definition of meaning of that word and say to myself, I am weird, yes, because I'm following my destiny, my fate. And that is the true meaning of the word weird. Following your destiny and your fate and knowing who you are. If someone calls you weird or is just questioning, you know, your newfound self, or whatever it is that is helping you change and evolve, that is going to bring about question from people, because they're comfortable in seeing you in the constant state that they've managed to keep you programmed in. And when you break out of that shell, you have to have a lot of trust and confidence in yourself to deal with the criticisms and the doubts of other people. So whenever you think that you're out of place or you're being called weird, look back into that definition of the word, which means fate, destiny, to follow your destiny, the triple goddess, past, present, future, that you have the power to dictate how weird you want to be. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Keep yourself open to new opportunities and trying out new things for yourself, because you cannot be everything for everyone. You have to be definitely centered for yourself, and always believe in your own confidence. Do the work. A lot of people, again, want to leave things to others to validate them, and that at the end is not very fulfilling to you and your path and your destiny. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. I hope that this little clip of weirdness has served you in one way or the other. I think that one of Prince's most influential quotes to me, out of many that he's had, is his biggest fear was to be normal. So regardless of who you are, who you want to be, or who you're becoming, Don't be afraid to be weird. Stay weird. So I want to thank you all again for stopping by today. Make sure that you do visit the blog and check out the blog from 2010 where I wrote about more information and background on the word weird and how you can use it to help and empower yourself. So check out the info bar below for the blog. Make sure you also check out Snapchat and the shop for more magical tools for your little journey. So thank you for stopping by. Have peace in your heart and find always the truth in your spirit. Bye-bye.